People used to treat me like I was nothing, but that day at the airport, I stood on the precipice of something great until my passport was tossed to the ground like yesterday's news. I, Camille Hartley, the proud CEO of Hartley Innovations, was days away from sealing a $4.3 billion merger when the careless act of a check-in agent shattered my composure. The room fell silent as I looked down at my identity, questioning how much longer I would be seen as a mere reflection of my race rather than my accomplishments. C-Terminal buzzed with energy, but all I could feel was the weight of disdain. I remember an innocent young girl glancing at me, her eyes wide with admiration. In that pivotal moment, I realized that my response was not just for me, but for every person who had ever felt marginalized. I picked up my passport, pulling myself together despite the anger simmering just beneath the surface. I responded not with fury, but with a quiet confidence that demanded respect. Take as news of the incident spread like wildfire, concerns about my behavior began to infect the negotiations, but I wasn't going to be painted as the villain in someone else's narrative. I took a stand against the prejudice I faced, not just for myself, but for the many who would follow in my footsteps. Armed with evidence of betrayal and a clear vision for change, I turned humiliation into power. When I left that boardroom, it wasn't defeat I carried, but a legacy, one where justice and strength define the narrative. "Ma'am, I need to see some identification," Marissa said, her gaze cool and dismissive, like Camille Hartley was just another face in the bustling airport crowd. Camille felt her blood rush as she slid her passport across the counter. "This should be sufficient," she replied, forcing calmness into her voice, hoping the crowd around her didn't sense her frustration. As Marissa flicked the passport in a deliberate arc, it landed on the ground with a dull thud, the crisp pages gripping dirt and scorn. "Oops," Marissa said, a smirk ghosting her lips. The murmurs from the nearby travelers scraped against Camille like shards of glass. She stammered, her heart racing. "Excuse me, that's not acceptable." "Are you sure that's really yours?" The words dripped with condescension. She might as well have said, "Prove you belong." With every ounce of dignity, Camille crouched, retrieving the passport, and glanced toward a young girl who stood quietly, wide-eyed, witnessing the whole exchange. Camille's lips tightened. She refused to show weakness. "You don't get to decide who I am," she said, locking eyes with Marissa. "Sure, honey. Just want to follow the rules here," Marissa replied, clearly unfazed. The other travelers watched, their glances ranging from sympathy to judgment, and Camille's heart sank with the weight of their collective bias. As soon as Camille stepped away, she pulled out her phone, glancing towards her assistant, Nia. "I need you to run a check on the media," she said, swallowing the anger threatening to spill, "and get legal on standby." She felt the chill of impending rumors already circulating, whispers that might drown out her years of hard work in an instant. "I'll handle it," Nia replied, but far too much seemed beyond control, hidden beneath layers of prejudice and power. This wasn't just a moment of insult. It felt like the beginning of a battle, one that had roots deeper than she'd first imagined. The airport hummed with the energy of travelers, but for Camille Hartley, that pulse felt stiflingly heavy as she approached the check-in desk. The air hung thick with unspoken judgments, and when the check-in agent, Marissa, glared at her, Camille felt the weight of stereotypes pressing down. Her heart raced as Marissa carelessly dropped her passport and it slid across the sleek floor, reflecting Camille's pained expression to the onlookers. As she picked it up, anger intertwined with her determination to remain composed. A young girl nearby gazed at her, wide-eyed, and Camille forced a smile, a facade she knew all too well. The reminder of her achievements, the $4.3 billion merger that hung precariously, fed into the frustration boiling below the surface. This was a game of perceptions, and she was all too aware of the stakes. Moments stretched, tension crackling like static. Then, a call from Blake shattered her focus. "There are rumors, Camille. We're worried about this incident." Every word pierced deeper, a chilling realization crashing over her. This minor humiliation was morphing into a threat against her hard-earned reputation. Clenching her fists under the counter, She hesitated for a second, the mix of composure and indignation swirling within her. Observing her surroundings, Camille sensed the shifting dynamics. The girl's hopeful gaze steeled her resolve. No longer just taking it quietly, she took a breath. It was time to stop being the example and start rewriting the narrative. The pressure ignited a spark. Camille wasn't just suffering silently anymore, she was ready to fight back. Abolishal straightened her posture as she gazed at the passport resting on the airport floor, a symbol of the disrespect she just faced. "Excuse me, Marissa," she said, her voice steady. "Is this how you treat customers?" Marissa looked momentarily taken aback, but quickly regained her composure, shrugging off the question. Camille felt the tension mounting as onlookers exchanged glances, some showing disbelief, others indifference. She picked up her passport, deliberately meeting the eyes of the young girl behind her, who had just witnessed the incident. "It's important to stand up for ourselves," Camille added softly, yet confidently, "even when others don't treat us right." After the encounter, Camille stepped aside to gather her thoughts, her heart racing. "Nia, can you look into any negative publicity related to today's incident?" Camille asked when her assistant answered the call. "I want to know what's being said." She felt a weight lift as she recognized how crucial it was to remain proactive instead of reactive. Days later, reviewing footage from fellow travelers, she paused on a clip showing Marissa's careless dismissal. The evidence shifted something deep within Camille. "This isn't just about me," she murmured to herself. When she filed the lawsuit, a wave of determination surged through her. "I deserve respect, and so do countless others," she whispered, her confidence rekindled. In the boardroom confrontation, Camille faced Reed without flinching. "I'm taking control of my narrative," she stated, voice unwavering. "We're no longer merging, we're acquiring." This small victory asserted her leadership and reshaped her fate, signaling a powerful comeback was underway. The airport's crowd fell silent as Camille Hartley's passport slipped from her fingers, a quiet thud echoing against the sterile floor. All eyes shifted, a spotlight on her as she bent down to retrieve it, her heart pounding with frustration and shame. She locked eyes with Marissa, the check-in agent, who'd questioned her identity, a ridiculous assertion, but one steeped in the familiar sting of systemic bias. Peering through the thickness of their silent tension, Camille composed herself, forcing a calm smile even as anger simmered beneath her surface. In the boardroom days later, at the final negotiation for a $4.3 billion merger, she could still feel the weight of that moment and the judgment that came with it. Blake's voice echoed in her mind. Rumors were swirling. Potential partners were uneasy. But the more she thought of Marissa's callousness, the more determined she became. Camille had played by the rules for long enough and was now ready to confront not just the lies, but the betrayal lurking within her own company. With undeniable evidence in hand, she stood resolute in front of the board, Reed's smirk replaced with fear as she unveiled the video footage, a clear demonstration of not just her grace under pressure, but the malicious intent behind the airport incident. The color drained from Reed's face as Camille articulated the consequences of his actions against her, the whispers of racism now evident in full daylight. She pivoted the narrative, announcing her plans to acquire Morris Technologies in bold strokes, leaving the merger behind and blazing a new path forward. As Reed resigned in disgrace, Camille felt a wave of satisfaction surge through the room. It wasn't just about justice for herself, it was about redefining the conversation around race in business. The boardroom erupted into muted applause, not for her triumph, but in acknowledgement of what they had witnessed. A powerful shift in agency, one woman reclaiming her voice in the face of adversity. Later, she founded the Hartley Foundation, each program underscoring her commitment to dismantling bias, turning the whispers of shame into roars of empowerment. Camille smiled as she remembered the moment at the airport. It had become not a symbol of defeat, but of transformation, an echo of resilience that resonated far beyond her own victory. As she reflects on that fateful day, Camille Hartley finds strength in her vulnerability. The moment her passport hit the floor echoed far beyond the airport, shaking the foundations of her journey as a Black female CEO. It was a brief yet profound encounter that tested her resolve and challenged her identity in a world filled with biases. The whispers of doubt from those around her could not diminish the hard-earned respect she'd built over the years. Now, Camille understands that standing tall means more than just rising above. It means transforming pain into purpose. The path she forged after that encounter was not solely for herself, but for others who felt the weight of similar injustices. Through adversity, she discovered the power of her voice, one that calls for systemic change and justice. In closing, have you ever faced such disrespect? How did it shape your sense of self? I invite you to share your experiences, connect with others who have faced adversity, and engage in the conversation of what it means to fight for belonging and justice. Your story matters. Join the discussion.